Hello, beautiful Libra soul. Have you ever stopped to wonder why this video found you and not the other way around? Let me tell you right now, you didn't stumble upon this message by accident. Something greater is unfolding. Something sacred. This is a cosmic appointment, and whether you arrived here seeking clarity, confirmation, or simply comfort, know this. The universe has been whispering your name. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where we don't just read horoscopes. We listen to energy, we interpret divine timing, and we help you realign with your highest path. And today's message? It's not just any reading. This is a moment of revelation because Libra, a big surprise gift is heading your way, and it's arriving in a way you least expect. But let me ask you something real, not as a reader, but as a soul who's walked this earth, too. What if the very thing you've been searching for is already searching for you? This reading is not here to predict, it's here to awaken. Because you, Libra, are in the middle of a quiet transformation. You're entering a season of rediscovery, of gentle power, of emotional clarity, and of magnetic receiving. And that's no coincidence. The energies surrounding you now are not random. They are purposeful, divinely aligned. You are being called to release the weight of your past, the pressure of indecision, and the illusion that you must fix yourself before you're worthy. You're already enough, and the universe is responding to the version of you that dares to believe that. So take a deep breath with me right now. Let go of the noise. Let go of the timeline. This is your moment, and I'm here to walk it with you. If this message is already resonating with something deep inside you, drop a sacred number in the comments. Maybe you've been seeing 222, 444, or even 1111 lately. Those numbers aren't random either. They're divine echoes calling you to remember who you are and what's meant for you. And while we're here, let me take a moment to thank you, truly. Every like, every comment, every subscribe means more than you know. Your support breathes life into this sacred space. It allows us to continue bringing transformative messages to those who need them most. So thank you from my heart to yours. And Libra, trust me when I say, you'll want to stay until the very end of this video. Because what the universe is about to reveal is nothing short of extraordinary. So tell me, my faithful Libra friends, what energy did you put out into the world that brought you right here, right now? Let's find out together. Sometimes, the most powerful shift begins not with action, but with allowing. You don't have to fight the current to reach the shore. In fact, the more you relax into who you truly are, the faster the tide carries you to where you were always meant to be. And Libra, you know this better than most, your essence is harmony. Balance is not a destination you run toward, it's a rhythm you return to. The same way the wind moves the leaves without resistance, your energy can move mountains when it's anchored in ease. This moment in your journey invites you to stop striving for alignment as if it's something external, and instead remember that you are the balance the world often lacks. When you try too hard to please others, when you overthink, overgive, or overexplain, you start tipping your own scale. That's when life begins to feel out of sync, not because the world has changed, but because you've forgotten that your center matters too. The High Priestess appears now, not as a distant symbol of mystery, but as a mirror to your own intuition. She doesn't shout, she whispers. She reminds you that what's right for you will never require you to betray your peace. The path ahead is not built through force, but through inner knowing. Your mind may seek answers, but your soul already holds them quiet, deep, and wise. This card nudges you to lean into stillness, to reconnect with the voice that doesn't need words. And then there is Justice, your ruling card, your sacred reflection. She stands not to judge, but to restore, to make whole. In her presence, you are reminded that everything, every decision, every action, every emotion eventually finds its balance. If you felt misunderstood, unacknowledged, or even depleted by the weight of imbalance in your life, know that the scales are beginning to tilt again. Not because you're forcing them, but because you're finally choosing truth over approval. Six of Pentacles comes through as a gentle check-in. Are you giving too much and receiving too little? Or are you withholding when your heart truly wants to give? This card isn't just about charity or generosity, it's about energetic flow. The universe responds not to desperation, but to clarity. Not to sacrifice, but to sovereignty. You deserve to receive in the same grace that you give, and you don't need to prove your worth to do so. There's an unspoken wisdom that echoes across time. You are not responsible for the emotional weather of those around you. You are only responsible for the way you carry your own light. And sometimes, the most generous thing you can do for others is to stay true to yourself. When you live in your truth, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. That is love in its most powerful, liberating form. So, if your heart has been aching from constantly trying to keep the peace at the cost of your own, this is your permission to lay down that burden. When you stop trying to fix everything and instead return to your own center, life begins to adjust around you. That's not magic, that's energetic alignment. You're not here to chase. You're here to attract. Not by controlling, but by becoming the clearest, calmest version of yourself. That is where your power lives. Harmony doesn't need to shout to be heard. And neither do you. There comes a time in everyone's journey where forward motion doesn't begin with bold steps, but with a quiet pause. For you, Libra, that time is now. Not because you're falling behind, but because you've carried so much emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually for far too long. And no one may have noticed. Because you're graceful. Because you're the one who always holds things together. But deep down, you felt the weight of unspoken grief, unresolved endings, and the tension of being pulled in too many directions. That's the shadow side of your gift. The ability to see all perspectives can sometimes make it hard to choose your own. This part of your journey isn't about doing more, it's about releasing what no longer serves you. The Ten of Swords doesn't arrive to cause fear. It arrives to confirm what you already sense: something is over. An old chapter, a repeated pattern, a relationship that wore you down slowly, or a belief about yourself that's no longer true. The pain it carried is valid. The tears, the confusion, the late nights of questioning, they mattered. But so does your healing. And now, it's time to claim the peace that has always been waiting for you once you set that burden down. When the Four of Swords appears, it doesn't ask you to retreat forever. It asks you to rest. To reflect. To allow your nervous system, your heart, and your spirit a moment of stillness. In today's world, stillness can feel counterintuitive. But truthfully, the deepest clarity only comes when the noise fades. Give yourself permission to stop trying to make sense of what happened and start creating space for what's coming. There's a quiet power in forgiveness, not as an act of approval for what hurt you, but as a decision to no longer carry it forward. When you forgive, you take your energy back. And with each small breath of letting go, you make room for something new, something lighter, something more aligned. Just as a garden must be cleared before planting new seeds, your inner landscape needs space for growth. That's what the world is here to show you. You're standing at the threshold of a cycle that's ending with dignity and beginning again with promise. Sometimes we fear closure because it feels so final. But closure, when rooted in compassion, is actually an opening. A portal. One that leads you toward yourself. And you don't have to rush it. You don't have to force joy, or get over it, faster than your heart allows. You just have to keep choosing peace over pressure, wholeness over hustle. Even in sacred wisdom passed down through generations, there is a gentle reminder that while we may be pressed on every side, we are not crushed. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to carry forward. And that decision to choose peace over pain is the quiet courage that changes everything. So, Libra, let this be the season where you no longer need permission to feel, to rest, to reset. Let this be the time where you finally say, I have nothing to prove, only something to release. And as you do, trust that what's meant for you is not just waiting, it's already on its way. Because the moment you create space within, the universe responds without. And that is how peace begins, not with a change in circumstances, but with a shift inside of you. What often feels like a quiet whisper inside you, an urge to create, to speak beauty into form, to build harmony out of chaos isn't random. It's not wishful thinking or just a hobby you forgot. It's a part of your original design. As a Libra, you were born under the influence of Venus, the planet of beauty, refinement, and interpersonal connection. That means the way you see the world through lines of balance, through subtle emotional textures, through the elegance of symmetry isn't just an aesthetic trait. It's a gift. And it's time you started treating it like one. By now, after releasing what no longer serves you and making peace with where you've been, you're finally ready to hear the gentle knock of something awakening within. It's familiar, yet somehow distant, like a dream you keep remembering in pieces. This part of your journey is about rediscovering that something you once loved before the world told you to be practical. Before self-doubt diluted your passion. Before you traded inspiration for stability. That dream didn't die, it simply went quiet, waiting for you to become still enough to hear it again. The Queen of Swords comes to you now, not as a ruler of harsh logic, but as a guide reminding you that your mind is part of your artistry. Her sword is clarity, not coldness. She asks you to see yourself honestly. What skill have you buried under responsibility? What vision do you carry that still lights you up, even after all this time? You don't have to monetize it. You don't have to master it overnight. But you do need to let it breathe again. Then arrives the Page of Cups, bringing a childlike curiosity and fresh emotional energy. This is your inner creative being, still playful, still imaginative, still hopeful. It wants to draw, dance, write, explore. It wants to connect with the world not through achievement, but through expression. Let it. You don't need a plan, just a little courage to follow what feels light, what feels like flow. Sometimes the path to purpose isn't found through strategy but through joy. Temperance appears here not as a restriction, but as an invitation to integrate all of who you are. Your logic and your intuition. Your structured thoughts and your freeform imagination. Your need for beauty and your need for impact. When you allow these parts to coexist instead of choosing one over the other, your natural talents start to emerge more effortlessly. That's when your gift stops being a mystery and becomes a rhythm. Maybe no one ever told you this growing up, but your creativity, your sensitivity, your way of reading a room and making people feel understood, that is a kind of intelligence. It's not always rewarded loudly, but it moves people deeply. And the world needs more of that. Your gift may not look like someone else's success story. It may be softer, quieter, more relational. But don't let the volume of others distract you from the vibration of what's inside you. Take time this week to return to something you once loved. Was it painting? Learning languages? Designing spaces? Writing music? Even if it's 5 minutes a day, bring it back. Let it reintroduce itself to you, not as a distant memory, but as a living piece of your soul. And as you do, be patient. Give yourself the grace to grow at your own pace. Remember, you were never meant to copy anyone else's brilliance. You were meant to reflect your own. And often, the divine timing of life isn't about you being late, it's about you being ready. You are now. So step into your gift, Libra, not with pressure but with quiet trust that the light you carry has always known where to lead you. Not every career decision needs to be a dramatic leap. Sometimes, the most meaningful shifts come quietly through small realizations, gentle redirections, and subtle invitations to change course. And Libra, this season is offering you just that. It's a time to reassess what you've been choosing and whether those choices still reflect who you're becoming. You don't need to abandon everything you've built, but you may be called to refine it, reimagine it, or finally release what no longer feels aligned. You've likely been feeling the inner tension of something unspoken, a disconnection between what you do and who you truly are. Maybe your work no longer feels like a source of joy. Or maybe it's never quite fit, but you stayed because it was safe, familiar, expected. And now the soul within you, the one craving balance and beauty, is asking a new question: what if success could feel lighter? What if purpose didn't have to feel like pressure? The Two of Pentacles shows up as a symbol of those internal and external jugglings. Two offers, two paths, two conflicting responsibilities. It's not asking you to rush a decision, but to pause long enough to ask yourself which one brings peace, not just a paycheck. Peace is often the compass that leads us to what's sustainable. If your current role costs you too much mentally, emotionally, or energetically, it might be time to explore an alternative. There's no shame in changing your mind when your heart finally speaks up. And when it does, the Knight of Cups enters, not with a rigid contract or a corporate climb, but with an invitation. This card suggests that something is approaching that carries both emotional and creative value. Perhaps it's an offer from someone you haven't spoken to in a while, a chance collaboration, a freelance project, or a new role that gives you more expressive freedom. It may not arrive in the form you expect, but it will resonate deeply. This is your reminder to stay open to paths that feel inspired, even if they challenge your practical side. Then there's the Nine of Pentacles, a vision of financial independence born not from hustle alone, but from inner confidence. This card speaks to self-worth manifesting as material stability. It's not about being rich, it's about being resourceful. It's about creating a life where you don't just earn to survive, but you earn in alignment with your truth. That kind of abundance is slower, more personal, and infinitely more rewarding. There's a quiet teaching we all hear when we're ready to listen: your gifts make room for you. When you honor your talents, when you lead with integrity and courage, doors open not because of your resume, but because of your resonance. If you've ever doubted whether there's a space in this world for someone like you, know this: you were never meant to fit into anything that asked you to shrink. Your work is meant to reflect your light, not drain it. This might be the moment to revisit your values. Write them down. What matters most to you now? Freedom? Impact? Balance? What kind of environments energize you? What kind of leadership do you crave or want to embody? Let your answers guide your next move, whether it's a bold transition or a soft pivot toward more meaningful work. Remember, Libra, you don't need to suffer in silence for the sake of stability. You can choose a different way, a quieter kind of success that's rooted in harmony. You're allowed to step away from what depletes you and step toward what completes you. The universe isn't punishing you for wanting more peace. It's gently encouraging you to believe that peace is the new measure of prosperity. When it comes to love, Libra, your heart holds more wisdom than you often allow it to speak. You've been taught to weigh everything so carefully: feelings, intentions, possibilities, that sometimes you end up postponing the very joy you seek. You want to do it right. You want to be fair. And in doing so, you often put your own desire last, making space for others before making space for yourself. But love, in its most honest form, isn't about choosing what looks perfect, it's about accepting what feels true. You may find yourself at a crossroads now, quietly asking, do I listen to my longing, or do I keep protecting myself from what could go wrong? The Two of Swords reflects this silent tension, the push and pull between head and heart. But in reality, they're not fighting. They're waiting for you to choose what brings peace, not perfection. Sometimes, the safest place isn't the one with the clearest outcome. It's the one where you can finally rest in your own truth without apology. The Lover's card enters not just as a sign of partnership, but as a deeper reflection of alignment. It speaks to a kind of love that meets you soul to soul, not just romantic, but meaningful, resonant, real. This connection, if it hasn't already entered your leaf, eyes circling closer. And it's not about chasing or impressing. It's about recognizing. You'll know it not because it completes you, but because it reflects back the fullness you've cultivated within. And that's where the Nine of Cups comes in, to remind you that true love blooms not from needing someone else to fill your cup, but from learning how to fill it yourself. If you've been searching, waiting, hoping, pause. Breathe. Instead of asking, when will they arrive, ask, am I home within myself? Because love arrives not when you're ready to give yourself away, but when you've returned to the wholeness of who you already are. That's when you become a magnet for a connection that doesn't confuse or deplete, but mirrors and uplifts. One gentle exercise I encourage you to try: write a letter to your ideal partner as if they're already beside you. Speak from your heart. Tell them what kind of love you are ready to give, and what kind you hope to receive. Describe your shared mornings, your quiet support, your laughter. Doing this not only clarifies what you truly want, but calls it into your field with greater clarity and intention. It transforms hope into invitation. You don't need to become anyone else to be loved the way you deserve. The people meant for you will be drawn to your presence, not your performance. They will meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. And if it hasn't happened yet, trust that it's not because something's wrong with you, it's because something right is still aligning for you. Even in sacred wisdom, there is a reminder that love is patient, and kindness begins within. You were never asked to chase love, only to embody it. So give yourself the grace to stop hiding your needs, stop silencing your heart, and start showing up as you, soft, sincere, and seen. The love you seek isn't far away. It's just waiting for you to come home to yourself first. And when you do, love will recognize you. Because it always does. As you gently arrive at the closing moments of this journey, I invite you to pause for just a breath longer. Let everything you've just experienced settle like soft rain on fertile soil, because Libra, you haven't simply watched a video. You've received a message. A mirror. A quiet invitation from the universe to come back into balance, not just with the world, but with yourself. Think about the sacred numbers that have followed you lately: 2, 6, 11. These aren't coincidences. They're gentle nudges, soft divine cues reminding you to stop rushing, to step back into harmony, to honor both your inner stillness and your natural elegance. You've always had this frequency within you. But today, perhaps for the first time in a while, you've remembered how to hear it again. And the colors: pastel blues, soft pinks, golden cream, theory more than hues. They are energies. They awaken different parts of you: compassion, serenity, clarity. What would happen if you surrounded yourself with more of what makes your nervous system exhale? What if the colors around you became small reminders of the peace you're choosing to create inside? Because here's a truth no one ever told us enough: peace doesn't come when everything outside of us calms down. It comes when we calm down. When we choose not to react the way we used to. When we choose to live in tune with what truly matters. When we trust that ease and success aren't opposites, theory soulmates. So let me ask you something from the heart. Which part of today's message stirred something in you? Was it the moment you realized your gift isn't gone, just hidden? Was it when you remembered that your work doesn't need to exhaust you to be meaningful? Or maybe, it was that simple truth about love, that the right connection doesn't demand your transformation, only your return? What would your life look like if you allowed this balance, this beauty, this quiet truth to lead? If this message has moved you even in the smallest way, I gently encourage you to take just one action this week. Write yourself that letter. Meditate with a soft glow of pink light. Revisit that childhood passion you tucked away for practicality. Or simply breathe in silence for 5 minutes and say to yourself, I'm allowed to begin again. That's all it takes. One sacred step. And now, dear Libra, before we part ways for today, I want to thank you. Truly. From the deepest place in my heart, thank you for showing up. Thank you for staying. Thank you for letting this message into your sacred space. Every like, every comment, every subscriber brings life to this space we've created together at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your presence doesn't just support this channel, it is the heartbeat of it. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this video with someone who might need these same reminders. It means more than you know, and it allows me to continue bringing these soul-guided messages to those who are quietly searching for something more. And if something in your spirit is nodding yes, would love for you to comment below. I welcome harmony, and I choose myself. Not just from a but as a loving affirmation to your future self. You are worthy. You are whole. And the life you're calling in, it's already listening. Until we meet again in the next message, may balance walk beside you, and may peace rise from within.